Years after a human hero defeated an evil dragon, the monster's spirit sets off in search of a magic flower to recover his body, and it's up to the son of the former hero to save the world once again. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, The Dragon's Spell, from 2016. A long time ago, the human world and a magical kingdom called Cantosfera lived in harmony. However, a powerful dragon emerged from this realm, attacked the humans and ended the peace between the worlds. Fortunately, a hero called Cyril defeated the evil dragon and saved all of humanity. However, the monster's spirit has taken refuge in Cantosfera, and since then he has been searching for the fire flower, because with it, his life will be restored and the dragon will finally have his revenge. Years have passed and people live quietly, including young Nicky, son of the great hero, Cyril. He lives with his older brother Bogdan, his mother Maria and the animals on his father's farm. Nicky is preparing for another day's work, together with Cyril and his brother, who is as strong as his father. To prove it, Bogdan challenges Cyril to a barrel-carrying duel. Bogdan throws several of them with his punches and kicks, but his father manages to catch them all at the same time without difficulty. Seeing this, Nicky tries to prove that he's strong too, but he can barely carry a small bucket of water for his father. Nearby, some kids make fun of him, but Cyril consoles his son and takes him to his storage room. There, he finds nothing less than the hide of the defeated dragon, which makes Nicky even more motivated to become strong, in order to defeat one of these monsters one day. However, his father says that the family business, making clothes from animal hide, is much more important. He then calls his children back home, but Nicky decides to stay a little longer, together with his pet calf, Drago. The boy sees one of his father's huge sewing scissors and, using it like a sword, he plays it, challenging the dragon to a duel. However, the scissors are too heavy and he accidentally knocks over the dragon's hide and cuts it with the scissors. Minutes later, his father sees everything, but instead of scolding him, he just reinforces his lesson that being a hero isn't just about strength. Meanwhile, in another part of the village, a wizard called Adler is practicing magic with his talking bat, Eddie. Just then, a red comet streaks across the sky and the old man suspects it's a bad omen. He then asks Eddie to take a letter to Cyril to inform him of this. The bat obeys and arrives at the hero's house, just as he's having breakfast with his family. On reading the letter, Cyril decides to answer the call and Nicky asks to go along, but his father orders him and Bogdan to look after the house in his absence. Even so, the boy sneaks out, alongside Drago. After walking for a while, Nicky and Drago arrive at the old man's house and watch the conversation between him and his father from the window. Inside, Adler tells Cyril that the comet in the sky is a sign that the fire flower will be born soon. He also says that if the dragon finds it, the world will be in great danger. To prevent this, they need to go to the Crystal Lake in Cantosfera and look for this flower. Cyril asks how the dragon is still alive and the sorcerer tells him that the creature's spirit is in the body of the sorceress of Cantosfera, called Syringa. While they talk, Nicky hears everything, until he is surprised by Eddie. Despite being discovered, the boy still wants to know more about the dragon's history. So the bat explains his legend and says that if the monster gets his skin back, the only way to finish him off is to turn him into ashes with his own fire. This makes Nicky even more excited about finding the dragon and, at the boy's request, Eddie opens a portal to the Cantosphere. However, the magic goes wrong and they are both sucked into the magical world. Just then, Cyril and Adler see everything and the wizard tries to close the portal, but it's too late and the boy is taken to the Cantosphere, along with Eddie. When they get there, the bat can't open the portal again, so Nicky decides to go to Crystal Lake to find the fire flower. Unbeknownst to the two, the sorceress is watching them from her cave and orders her ogre servant to capture them immediately. The ogre obeys his master and with a twist of his body, he digs up the earth and sets off in search of the invaders. Meanwhile, Nicky and Eddie continue to wander around the Cantosphere until they come across a mysterious child with his pet squirrel. The pair demand all the food from the invaders, but before Nicky can respond, the squirrel goes all out on the boy. Even though it's small, the animal is very fast and attacks Nicky with many bites and scratches. Finally, the boy asks the mysterious young man to make the squirrel stop, as he has no food to give them. The young man believes Nicky and decides to leave, but before he does, he asks for his help to find the Crystal Lake. If he takes him there, in return Nicky will give him all the food he wants. The boy accepts the offer and introduces himself as Rocky, together with his squirrel friend, called Kamikaze. The boy then summons huge three-eyed snails, who will serve as his mounts on their journey to the lake. The group travels through the entire realm of Cantosfera, passing huge leaves and swamps inhabited by giant mosquitoes. Rocky seizes the chance and captures one of them so that they can fly through the skies at high speed. Meanwhile, Kamikaze sees the sorceress's ogre, who is looking for Nikki and Eddie, emerge from the ground. He tries to warn everyone about it, but the boys don't care and continue on their journey. Finally, they land in an extensive field made up of giant mushrooms. However, before they can continue their journey, the ogre appears before them and sets out to capture them. Nikki runs for the mushrooms, but the ogre is faster and manages to catch up with him. The monster then prepares to attack, only for the young man to pull out one of the mushrooms and block the creature's punch. Rocky and Kamikaze then jump on the monster to help Nikki, but the ogre manages to stop them easily with his forearms. Then Eddie fires a spell at the ogre, who is thrown over a huge cliff, along with Rocky and the squirrel. Luckily, the pair manage to hold onto a flower, which floats off to another part of the kingdom. Even so, Rocky shows Nikki the right way and he decides to go on with his mission, alongside Eddie. Hours later, the ogre returns to the cave of the sorceress, who is furious at her servant's failure. Nevertheless, he reveals that the boy is going to the Crystal Lake in search of the fire flower. With this information, the sorceress summons her army of specters and orders them to capture the boy. Meanwhile, in the world of men, Adler, Cyril and their family build a machine to enter the Kantosphere and save Nikki and Eddie. Little do they know that, as they prepare to rescue them, the two are being watched by the sorceress on their way to Crystal Lake. If that wasn't bad enough, her spectrums soon find Nikki and Eddie and start tormenting them with illusions. The bat sees the image of his master, Adler, who accuses him of being a mediocre and arrogant sorcerer, while Nikki is reprimanded for his parents' delusion. Fortunately, when his so-called father tells him that the boy isn't strong enough to defeat the dragon, Nikki soon realizes the deception, because he knows that Cyril would never say that. Then, with a tree stick, he attacks the illusion, which soon turns out to be a spectrum. His blows, however, miss the creatures, but Eddie sets out to help Nikki and uses his light magic to drive them away. The specters flee back to the sorceress cave, only the bat's magic is so powerful that they are soon turned to dust. This makes the villain very angry and she uses her water mirror to keep an eye on the boy, only instead of him, the villain sees Rocky, who had landed near a lake. In some mysterious way, the child can also see her and says that the sorceress looks very familiar. The villain soon realizes that Rocky has only been with Nikki for a short time and decides to use this to her advantage. She then tells him that she is his fairy godmother and that she can make any wish come true. Rocky then asks for a real family, just like Nikki's, and the sorceress agrees, but in return asks the child to give her his friend. Rocky finds this very suspicious and refuses, as well as casting a little magic at the sorceress. Annoyed, she orders the ogre to follow the children and gives him a small amount of magic to help him. Hours later, Nikki continues on his journey and meets Rocky again, who reminds him of his promise to give him food. However, he replies that first, he needs to finish his mission and get to Crystal Lake. Rocky agrees to help him once again and, with his magic, creates floating plants so that they can cross the pond. However, they don't realize that, nearby, the ogre is watching their every move. Finally, the group reaches a house that Rocky believes he has seen before. Thanks to his magic, the door is opened and inside, the group finds several scrolls scattered around. Nikki and Eddie investigate each of the scrolls and find one that contains a message written in an ancient language. Rocky uses his magic to decipher it and discovers that the message is a riddle about a portal, protected by a bird. Upon hearing this, Nikki quickly understands the riddle and remembers that, near the house, there is a statue of a stork next to a small fountain. The group goes there and after a little investigation, the boy finds a key in the shape of a star and puts it in an opening in the statue. Thanks to this, a passage opens up inside the fountain and following it, the group finds a mysterious cave. Inside, Rocky can't use his magic, but the group decides to go ahead and find out more about this place. Halfway there, Eddie lets out a sneeze and the noise causes strange flowers to start glowing. Everyone runs as fast as they can before the flowers explode and, just barely, the group manages to escape in time, but Rocky stumbles and drops his cap. At that moment, Nikki is startled to realize that Rocky is actually a girl and that her real name is Roxalana. Despite this surprise, and finding her very beautiful, the boy calls everyone to explore more of the cave. The group follows floating rocks and narrow walls until they reach the top of the cave. However, in the midst of several crystals, they encounter a powerful stone giant who blocks their way. Even with this threat, Nikki decides to attract his attention, while the others go in search of the fire flower. However, the giant soon catches up with the boy, but to everyone's surprise, he introduces himself as the guardian of the cave and praises the boy's courage. Seeing that the stone giant is a kind being, they ask him to help them find the flower, as the dragon will be after it soon. The giant then summons a small magical firefly, which will guide the group to their goal and open a portal that will lead them out of the cave. Nikki and Rocky thank the kind giant and, after leaving the cave, they ask the Firefly to show them the way. However, outside the portal, the ogre was waiting for them and grabbed them with his arms. Rocky faints and Nikki tells the monster to let her go, but just then, the sorceress begins to speak through the ogre. She orders the boy to take the fire flower and, in return, she will give him back his friend. Eddie tries to attack the ogre with his magic, but he uses his spinning motion to enter the earth and return to the cave. With Roxolana in danger, Nikki is determined to get the flower back and help the girl, so with the help of Eddie and the magical Firefly, they set off for Crystal Lake. Later, in the sorceress's cave, the ogre takes Rocky and leaves her on a bed, still unconscious. Without realizing it, he has also brought her squirrel friend, who sets out to attack the monster. Even with his courage, the ogre throws the squirrel far away from the cave. The sorceress then wakes Rocky, who is furious to learn what she has done to his friends. The girl tries to leave and the sorceress grabs her hand, but as she does so, Rocky's magic causes the sorceress to have a memory of the past. The memory soon reveals that she is actually Roxolana's mother, dominated by the spirit of the dragon. Even so, the sorceress refuses to return to normal and orders the ogre to imprison the girl in the cave. Fortunately, help is on the way, as Adler, Cyril, Bogdan and Maria finish building the machine, which looks more like a wooden flying ship. And then, with the help of the wizard, they all enter the portal and make their way to Cantosfera to rescue Nikki, who is getting closer and closer to the lake. Finally, he and Eddie find the fire flower, which emits such powerful energy that the magic of the cave is undone and the spirit of the dragon is freed. Because of this, the sorceress can go in search of Nikki, but that won't be necessary. After the boy removes the fire flower from the field, the kamikaze squirrel appears and takes him to the sorceress cave, as Rocky is still being held prisoner. Without thinking twice, Nikki follows the squirrel and reaches the cave, where the sorceress is waiting for him. The villain demands the fire flower and the boy agrees to give it to her, but Eddie warns him that doing so will lead to the destruction of the whole world. Even so, the boy is determined to do it, but he demands that the villain frees Roxolana first. She obeys the deal and sends her ogre to bring the girl to them. Rocky thanks Nikki for saving her, but the danger is still there, as the sorceress is willing to do anything to get the fire flower. But Eddie and Rocky won't let her get her way, and with their combined magic, they fire a ball of energy that hits the ogre. The monster then begins to feel paralyzed and, little by little, his entire body is turned to stone. Rocky then tells the boy that the sorceress is her mother, who is under the sway of the evil dragon. Unfortunately, in a moment of distraction on Nikki's part, the villain takes the flower from his hands and uses magic to transport the dragon hide to Cantosfera. After that, the spirit leaves the sorceress' body, who returns to normal and recognizes Roxolana as her daughter. However, the evil dragon has finally returned to his true form and threatens to destroy everyone with his power. The end is near for the group and the entire human world, only for Adler, Cyril and their family to appear in the midst of the skies in their flying ship. The wizard then uses his staff and fires a spell at the dragon, which is thrown towards a mountain. Afterwards, Nikki meets his family again, who welcome him with great joy, as does Adler, who is happy to see his bat again. But seconds later, the dragon rises from the rubble and promises to destroy everyone with the power of its flames. While the monster continues his speech, Nikki and Roxolana run to the ship, make it take off and head towards the villain. The dragon tries to dodge, but is hit by the ship's wheel, which only infuriates him even more. The kids then flee through the mountains, but the dragon sets off after them and, even with Adler using his magic, he is stopped by Cyril, who is afraid of the wizard accidentally hitting the kids. With that, the only thing left for the pair to do is flee through the huge rocks, but the dragon is relentless. Nikki tries a risky maneuver and flies into a narrower hole to lure the monster into his trap. The plan works and the dragon crashes into the mountain, but that's not enough to stop it. Rocky, Eddie and Kamikaze are desperate, but Nikki tells them that they need to fly more slowly. Even though they don't understand what he's planning, the group follows his command and the dragon gets closer and closer. It fires its flames, which burn some of the barrels at the back of the helicopter. This was the chance Nikki had been waiting for, and he asks Kamikaze to throw the barrels at the monster. He obeys and the monster is hit by the barrels, right in the middle of its snout. However, it soon pulls itself together and appears in front of the ship. Eddie and Rocky once again combine their magic and fire at the dragon, which is bewildered and crashes into the ship. The impact knocks Nikki off balance and he is thrown onto one of the ship's wings, which flies out of control. The boy can't resist the ship's movement and slips off from the wing, but at the last minute, Eddie invokes magic and manages to catch him in midair with a floating sphere. The chase continues and the dragon decides to use as much of its flames as possible to finish everyone off. Even so, Nikki doesn't let himself be intimidated and provokes the dragon who, at the limit of his fury, tries to shoot a burst of fire at him. To his misfortune, the accidental cut Nikki had made in his hide with the scissors doesn't stand up to the dragon's intense fire. As a result, the monster explodes in its own flames and is destroyed once and for all. Finally, the threat of the evil dragon is over for good, thanks to the courage of Nikki and his friends. Then, after landing the ship on the ground, his family welcomes him with great pride and admiration. Likewise, Adler congratulates Eddie on his work and tells him that he is no longer an apprentice, as he has become a real wizard. The bat thanks him and decides to move in with Nikki, so that they can learn more about magic and go on new adventures together. Finally, the time has come to return to their world and Nikki says goodbye to Roxolana, as well as fulfilling his promise with a basket full of food. But, with Eddie's help, they promise to return to the Kantosphere to visit her whenever possible. Afterwards, Nikki and his family set off back to their world, while Roxolana and her mother join forces in search of a new home. What's more, the ogre turned to stone returns to normal and decides to accompany them on this new beginning. Finally, Rocky and her mother say their last goodbyes to Nikki and watch the ship travel back, while Eddie opens a portal back to the human world. Everyone leaves, except for the bat, who accidentally didn't go through the portal and has to create another one to return home. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.